I think there are people still joining in.
Let's give it another 5 minutes, no problem.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Uh, yeah, thanks, Dashrath. Uh, so, so good evening, all. I'm Dr. Pranita, and I welcome you all on behalf of SINE for this Power Hour Biotech series. I will briefly introduce SINE for the benefit of those who are not really aware of SINE. SINE is a technology business incubator which is hosted by IIT Bombay. It's a IIT Bombay's incubator, and it provides start to scale support to the startups, innovators, entrepreneurs. So whoever want to excel in this entrepreneurial journey, we are here to support you. Now, quickly moving to our today's Power Hour session, because I don't want to waste a lot of time introducing SINE, since it's one of the interesting area where people will have a lot of questions. So SINE has started this Power Hour series last year in the midst of pandemic to bring various eminent speakers, expert in various domains, fields to share their experience, anecdotes for the benefit of entrepreneurs, startups. Under this Power Hour series, we have covered a various session on IP software patenting, then how to be investor ready, then discussing term sheet due diligence for startups with investors, how to manage startup cash flow, how getting customer ready, so on and so forth. So there were very interesting sessions which we hosted under this Power Hour series. Now we are starting with fresh biotech series under this SINE Power Hour, where we would like to bring various speakers from different domains of biology, life sciences, agri-tech, food tech, med tech, healthcare, even drugs, biosimilars, some eminent speakers from industrial biotechnology area, clean energy, so on and so forth. Also, we would also like to conduct some session under this biotech series on regulatory procedure for devices and certification, because this is the area where a lot of startups have a question and a little bit clarity on how to proceed in this area. So those also will be hosted under this biotech series. So this is going to be a very interesting series, a biotech series under SINE Power Hour. And today is our first session under this biotech series on startup opportunities in agri-tech. And for this session, we have invited renowned speaker, Mr. Rajiv Ayyappa, to provide his insight in this domain. And it's my pleasure to introduce Rajiv. I'll briefly introduce Rajiv to yourself, to all the audience. Rajiv is the CEO and partner at Platform Asia, a platform that owns and builds enterprises in the agri and food tech sectors with the focus on operational excellence and sustainability. So Platform Asia focused on building companies in agriculture, food technology, platform marketplace tools with South and Southeast Asia focus. And in these capacities, Rajiv have backed and advised over 25 companies, and most of them involving board participation. And with the background of close to 2.5 decades in agriculture technology and traditional agriculture practices, Rajiv coach agri cooperation on business strategy, operational transformation, and digital integration. And his experience includes working with Singapore based headquarters, public listed agri trading enterprise, and founding an agri technology startup 2 decades back, and which he continues to run with presence across 14 countries. And majority of his work today involves working with CEOs of Series A and B firms, backed by VC firms in Europe, Asia, and US. So, with this brief introduction, I welcome Rajiv to deliver today's talk, and looking forward to an interactive session with our audience. But before I hand over the session to Rajiv, I would like to request all our participants to please post your questions in your in Q&A chat box, because this is going to be a very interesting and interactive session. It is not going to be a monotonous one-side talk. So we would like to encourage a lot of questions from the audience. So with this, Rajiv, over to you, to give some prelogue to our audience.
Thank you, Pranita. First of all, to the audience, it's always an honor to speak to this kind of an audience, obviously from IIT Bombay. I'll jump straight in, but at the outset, I just wanted to say there are certain areas that I can add value. So I might deviate a bit from the main core. And I believe two areas I can add value is I have seen companies grow from scratch. Then you have different kinds of investors entering. Then you graduate a few years, you have different kinds again, and so on and so forth. That's something that I can add value. I will also typically talk about what key success factors are for each stage in the company. Having said that, I'll just reintroduce myself. I'm Rajiv Ayappa. I have worked across the globe, from Havana, Cuba, to Australia. My company in Singapore has offices there. Plataforma Asia is about 3 years old, but it comes with management experience of over 40 years. In fact, I would say 60 years if you look at all the partners. We focus on operational excellence. And that is why I'm going to come to that part of value add in the end. We own one dairy in Calcutta. We are on the verge of buying a mega food park. We own two frozen food factories. We own India's largest integrated coconut processing factory. We own two AgTech companies, one in precision agriculture and the other in automation of irrigation. And I will use these live examples to go along the story. With that, I'm just going to run through about 5 slides or 10 slides, but taking less than a minute per slide. The objective is just to build some context. And just before we start, there is a lot of information out there. You don't really need to struggle nowadays. It's all over the place. Am I audible?
Yes, Rajiv, you're audible.
There is a lot of information out there. And to the audience, I just want to tell each one of you, reach out there. There's enough. It's just about making it happen. And I will end with the same words that it's all about endurance and just keeping the focus on letting failures pass by, learn from them, and that's it. If you could kindly move to the second slide. So last year, I worked with a team from Ernst & Young in preparing a report on AgriTech, defined as various areas. But if I can give you a proper definition, anything that has traditionally been done, AgriTech tries to do that better. And of course, it's very important to understand margins that are made. Therefore, you know what your business model should be and what you can capture. This paper was co-authored with a team from Ernst & Young. And if you find me on LinkedIn, you can download the report from there. What I have done is I have reached out to another report today. So my source of this information I'm putting up is INC 42, a very well-known publication. Frankly speaking, they have sourced some information from our study. So I chose to speak about the same and use a very nicely presented format from this. Quick summary, the estimated gross value added by agriculture last year was 276 billion. And 56% of this has been contributed by farming. When I say farming, the other areas are poultry, aquaculture, etc. The fundraising by startups in the last, say, about 6 or 7 years is about 467 million. And so far, we have an average of about, we have a total of about over 1,000 startups. I'll be very honest with you, I think that's a very small number. We have much larger than that. Unfortunately, AgTech is not tapped into so far. The depth of penetration is not much. We are hardly at 1% in our country. Can you please go to the next slide? In my previous slide, and this one I'm just going to flip very quickly, I said farming is the one that contributes 56%. The purpose of talking about this is it's very important. See, by the way, I just want to say one thing to this audience. Innovation always comes from the fringes. So the best innovations in agriculture today are by engineers, by doctors, everybody who's not in agriculture. I mean, I would give a lot of benefit to the guys who are in agriculture, but a lot of innovation comes from outside. So I'm hoping that that's what this audience is about. But it also means that you have to understand the subject matter, go in a little deep. And if you're looking at this slide breakup, the biggest opportunity is in farming, but that does not mean that fishing or forestry is not remunerated. Next slide, please. Again, very quick run through this. What are the main pain points of the Indian agriculture sector? And by the way, I personally believe a lot of this is now slowly getting redundant. So I just go through these 6 points very quickly. Inadequate and unstructured data. I believe there's a lot of place for improvement here. Lack of access to high quality inputs and inefficient supply chain. I believe this has gone through leaps and bounds over the last 5 years. Sorry, can everybody hear me? I got a message from somebody saying my mic is off.
Rajiv, you're audible.
Thank you. I'm going to finish point number 2 and 3 again. There seems to be a lot of improvement in access to high quality inputs, and the supply chain is becoming efficient, including the cold chain. Employment rationalization, I do not want to comment. High cost of equipment is a great opportunity, and this is something that I will speak about during the course of my 2 case studies, which pertain very significantly to the Indian market. Lack of finance, again, I'm not going to talk about it too much. Please, next slide. I have only about 4 or 5 slides. Okay, why do we need growth in agri-tech, and what's driving it? We have, let's just talk about irrigation automation, which I'm going to speak about. Without going into detail, we need climate resilience technology. And just, flooding your fields with water and wasting it is not going to help in the long run for the next generation. So that's one, a farmer, a young guy, let's imagine he's 21 years old. He goes back after living in the city and studying in a nice university. What he wants to do is he wants to do something like an Uber. He wants to click on his mobile and he wants to, just like you order a taxi in probably 5 minutes, he wants his farm input, or he wants a service ordered using a very hip app. That's what I believe ease and access to farmer input is. Of course, post-harvest losses, improvements through cold chain, increased internet penetration. Please, next slide. Again, I'm revisiting this slide on purpose just to highlight the total addressable market. It's 24 billion, and that's not small. While market linkage has the highest potential, most of the investments, most of the work today is actually happening in this segment. AgriTech has, again, a huge role to play, but I would think that the scope is much larger. The penetration is only 1%. So I would ask everybody to look at other areas. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. 2 more, 3 more slides. Again, pointing out the total addressable market. Since only 1% has been penetrated too, that's about 204 million. You see the gap that exists. Next slide, please. I'm flipping through these very quickly because the core of the discussion is going to start after this. This is just for you all to see. This is how people normally break segments in agtech into, in agriculture into, and then see where agtech can contribute. Market linkage, which is inputs as well as outputs, precision agriculture, farming as a service, financial services. Next slide, please. I'm not going to stay on this slide for too long, but just trying to point out that B2B agri-tech models currently attract greatest investor interest. Now, why is this there is we'll be addressing it during the questions with Dr. Pranita. But it's just because businesses are at least willing to pay. It's reaching that phase where farmers are willing to pay too, but we'll talk about it as we go along. Next slide, please. Again, these slides are available with SINE, so I'm not going to go into this one. Please go to the next slide. Okay. Again, understanding this audience, I would have thought that you all expect me to tell you about the latest things that are out there. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you about opportunities that exist, but I'll tell you a little story while we are talking about all these things. This slide is which tech are Indian farmers using? Digital collars for cattle. This has been going on for the last 2-3 years. Number two, agricultural drones. This has been going on for the last 3 to 4 years too. But policy was not clear and probably till now is still not clear. I know some great guys working in this sector. What I'm trying to point out when I speak about drones is the lessons we learn are your innovation has to match with, or you should be able to influence policy. Because if you're too early in the market, you have a great business, you're not going to have a chance. I'll just go to hydroponic farming. This is the rage. I mean, you look at New York, you look at Tokyo, people are doing hydroponic vertical farming in containers right in the center of town. I believe there's one in Bangalore taking shape. I do not know where it is gone. Automated weeding. Now, this is something that's a personal baby. We've invested in one company called TerraCroft AgriTech doing this. And one of the topics we're going to talk about when we go to Pranita is about the BIG, the Biotech Ignition Grant. This particular company tried thrice, never made it for the BIG. But fortunately, we invested in them. They're going at a great pace. Very happy to be associated. Next slide, please. I think another 1 or 2 slides left. What's going to happen in 2021 and beyond? Farming as a service, rise of data-led models and farm analytics, blockchain. Now, I'm again not going to go into this, but just a quick note on farming as a service. I told you about this. Imagine this young guy who's living in a rural area. He has a small farm. Let's assume it's only 1 acre of wheat. Now, he's not going to really make a lot of money from it. So he goes into the city and he works, he takes a small-time job. He knows what the key times are in the year that he needs to be back on his farm. So he can head back for 2 weeks, do his harvesting and come back. But just imagine, and by the way, these things already exist. Just imagine you use a Uber-like service, sorry, and you just order for somebody to come and do your harvesting. Maybe you can be present, or even if your brother is going to look over it. So some sort of a Uber service comes, does your business and goes away. Sorry, I got distracted with the message. So I'm just trying to say that farming as a service has a great potential. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is my last slide, but just trying to tell you that if you look across India, the various states are actually trying to put in a lot of effort in involving startups to get their innovations launched in. This map just gives you some photographs of it. You can get this from IIT Bombay, from SINE, sorry. With that, I end the slides. Over to Dr. Pranita.
Thanks, Rajiv, for this quick overview. And as Rajiv mentioned, most of these points probably we will take up during our discussions, and of course, the questions which will be like coming from the audience as well. But starting with this discussion, Rajiv, I would like to say that one of the highlight for the session which we have communicated to our audience was disruptive technology, and we have actually received a lot of queries regarding this. So I'm going to start with first disruptive technology, and then we can go over the investors' perspective and other stuff as well, the technologies which you have mentioned. So what I would like to know is that what are these disruptive technology in the agriculture, or what could constitute a disruptive technology? But before you answer that question, since you have mentioned about the Terracroft Agritech, where you have invested, I know this is another, they are making a disruptive product, that is a field robots. So also I would like to know that what makes their field robots or that product disruptive, and what is that make sure that such disruptive technology is investable, or maybe if you would like to answer is what is that which make them successful?
Yeah. Sorry. Which question shall I attend to first?
Whichever you like, but if
So
you could
I'll
start
just give
with
you this case study.
yeah.
Thank you. So just to let you know about this company called, and I'm going to give you this background, just understanding that this audience, if there are people in that stage, it's very interesting because one of the topics I am going to cover with Dr. Pranita is different stages and what investors look at those different stages. Terracroft Agriculture has been started by students from Manipal University. I think it's called Manipal Engineering College. Just while they were in their final year, this was their project work. The good part about them is they were very down to earth and grounded. Spoke to a lot of farmers, interacted with them for almost 6 months, collecting data, um, figured out what it takes to be successful. Now, let me just give you one story. You have these huge combined harvesters in the US and Australia and various other countries. Um, what happens is, and this is an employee of mine, an ex-employee of mine, he used to do this in the 80s. So what I'm trying to highlight is the technology always existed in every country. It has been brought into India. It already exists in some states, but it's evolving very quickly. People are getting autonomous tractors, autonomous robots to do certain things. So the story I'm telling you about is one is an employee of mine. He was there in a South African country. You have these huge combine harvesters. So he goes every 500 meters, takes a soil sample, implants a GPS device, goes another 500 meters, plants another GPS device, etc. Now this GPS device is synchronized with the combined harvester, come fertilizer applicator. So what happens is this machine, this huge mammoth machine, is just started. The driver's sitting in an air-conditioned room. He probably is watching football and going to sleep. But you have GPS devices planted on the field, which are synchronized with the satellite, and therefore uh, fertilizer application takes place in a very precision-based manner. The combination of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash is applied exactly as it is required on the ground. Now, the story I'm telling you about is from probably the late 80s or maybe early 90s. So this is not new technology, but it has evolved rapidly. Terracroft AgriTech makes tiny robots. Uh, the thing that we liked about them is um, they identified very early on that affordability is the key, because the older story I told you, the combined harvester and fertilizer applicator is probably about $1 million US. This robot developed by Terracroft AgriTech is just about 1.5 lakh rupees. Um, it goes about it's still under development, by the way. What makes it disruptive? Two things. A, they identified uh, what's the name of the company? Terracroft AgriTech Private Limited. So the robot goes about. Um, sorry, what makes it disruptive is just getting a lot of messages. What makes it disruptive is the fact that the founders identified that affordability is key. They identified that the biggest difficulty for an autonomous robot of that size is going in a straight line itself is a challenge. So they developed this technology of, and in-house, by the way, of, sorry, I'm so bad at tech. I think it's called ASL. But the point being, the robot, even after going over rough terrain, can go in a straight line. So this robot can sow seeds in a straight line at a certain depth. It can do very basic fertilizer application operations, spraying operations, weeding operations. Again, the second point that makes it disruptive, and I would not use the word disruptive, but a success factor, is they tied up with um, field specialists. They went to ICAR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research. They tied up with University of Agricultural Sciences in Bangalore, and this robot is currently undergoing field validation tests. Um, you want to ask some more on that, Dr. Pranita, or do you want to move to the next?
Yeah, yeah. So one more thing is that from I understand you mentioned that that these are the things which makes them different. But from investors, I mean, there are a lot of other startups also working on the same thing, right?
Yes.
Uh, so what makes it really lucrative sort of a thing to invest from investors' perspective at such disruptive technology? And besides this, like data science or any other disruptive technology on which if you would like to shed some light.
See, it's important to understand what the world is looking for. It's not a very bland statement, what I just said. The World Bank has certain funding objectives where any farm operation, during the process of any farm operation, if you are collecting data, it is actually a good proposal for funding. So this funding is channeled through various companies and institutions in India, supported by DST, Department of Science and Technology, uh, the various government institutions, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes them successful is identifying what is actually needed.
Okay. Okay. So since we are talking about investment, I would like to ask you certain things about that. So I think last time we had spoken, you mentioned that you have invested in startups who are working in the automation in irrigation, and different investors coming at different stages. So could you shed some light on what is investors' perspective when they are going to invest, in the startup, when they are at the different stages of their evolution? What exactly, investors look at such startup?
Uh, in some cases, I do not take companies' names, please.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just to give you a background, I'm telling you a story about a company when uh, startup investing just started was about 2013, 14, 15, and 16. That's when it really started. And of course, with a lot of respect to some of the good VC firms in India like Omnivore, Ankur Capital, etc. They've done a great job coming in very early in the process. Now, this company, without taking its name, uh, was among the pioneers in terms of ideation. The founder comes from a hardcore tech avionics background, in fact. He's a software engineer. He was living in the US and he saw that, hey, why don't I do this in my own country? So while he was in India, he was incubated at one of the BioNest partners incubation centers in Hyderabad. He was among the first few companies like AgNext. So he got funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through some other VC firms. What I'm trying to tell you is two things. A is their business model is automation of irrigation, and they became a vendor for Mahindra Irrigation. So in the beginning, it was just a concept. As they went along, they got seed investors from DST. There was no BIG at that time. The advantage I can tell this audience when you have a seed investor is if you have a good seed investor, they will bring with them, 5 more seed investors. So what happened at that time, IIM Ahmedabad, uh, their incubator, I think that's CIE, as well as 4 or 5 uh, investors got together, put money into this company, grew it. Now, the point I'm trying to make is when you're at that seed stage, the benefits or the things that they can give you is network, mentoring, added funding, getting others to come on board. And I believe they did a great job. At that point, I was just working as a mentor for them. They did a great job in getting them empaneled with Mahindra Irrigation. So what they did was to also create a long-term revenue model for this company. Um, so I explained to you that at a seed stage, they got money, they were incubated, they were even accelerated, but it was just about product development. Then when the DST funding came through with the numerous investors, it was about building partnerships, revenue model, mentoring, going to the next stage. Then came another investor. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is at each stage, the investors are different. So what the other investor did was they were all about sustainability in business. So they saw whatever was done in the past, with all due respect to the founder, they saw all that was done in the past as nonsense. Sorry to use that word, but what I'm trying to get at is each stage investors see things differently. The last set of investors, and this is in early stage at the moment, they were looking at, hey, can you make money for every single rupee that you spend? Uh, has a result been achieved? Has revenue been achieved, etc.? So yeah, that's a small story about this. I'm sorry, I'm just going to turn off these messages, please.
Yeah. Uh, Maybe if everyone can put their questions in the Q&A chat box and not flood the chat box as such, so that will not distract Rajiv then.
Sorry, I've lost your voice.
Uh, Rajiv, can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Give me 10 seconds.
Dashrath, am I audible?
Pranita, you are audible. I think there's a lag on
clear.
Rajiv's end.
Okay, got it.
It's very clear on my end, please.
Yeah, but can you hear me now?
Yes,
Rajiv?
it's very clear.
Yeah,
yes.
Thanks for confirming that. Okay, so I was just requesting audience not to flood chat box, but put their question in the Q&A chat box. That may not distract you. Yeah, so I got your point that about investors coming at different stages and how they can help building these startups. So approaching the right investors at right time of product development is very crucial in this area. But on this with this context, you also mentioned in one of your slides where you just touched upon that B2B agri-tech model are attracting a greater investors interest in one of your slides. So could you share some interesting anecdotes about this and why and as well as about, let's say, B2C model, how investment landscape looks for them?
Sorry, Pranita, my screen is frozen, so I'm just going to take a second to just reset.
Sure, Rajiv.
I'm just going to exit and rejoin.
Okay, fine. Sure, we'll wait for you to rejoin. So I'm requesting all the participants to please put your questions in Q&A chat box instead of chat box.
Pranita, can you hear me?
Yeah, Rajiv, I can hear you.
Sorry, there's something wrong with this thing, but we can just carry on. Is video available?
No, your screen is still frozen, but I think your voice is pretty clear.
Let's just carry on if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So I was just asking with this context where you have mentioned all these, about the investors coming in right time, right investors, different investors at, during the evolution of these startups. So how important it is to build these startups. So with this context, I have another question to you, is that one of your slide mentioned that B2B agritech model attracts a greater investors in interest compared to B2C model. So could you share some anecdotes, interesting anecdote about this, and as well as how the investment landscape looks for B2C models as well, and any suggestions if you have on that?
Sure. See, obviously the report is written now, so we are talking about the past. One example is, you know, Guntur red chilies. Now, in the olden days, these chilies were dried in the open, and there was a huge problem if the rain suddenly came and it just destroyed your entire produce. The second thing was buyers like MNCs were in, I'm not going to take their names, that's why I paused, but MNCs had their buyers based in, let's say, Singapore or Vietnam, and further, you know, west or east. What used to happen is during the time of the produce, the buyers had to be present there and oversee the entire process. So I'm trying to now give you an example of B2B and why AgriTech is more successful there, at least so far.
Yeah.
These MNCs saw that, you know, if I'm spending $10,000 or $20,000 having my buyers go to India, be based there, and, you know, I'm spending that much, why don't I put in a small IoT device, do the drying in a certain manner, and just monitor the entire process 24/7, rather than have something that is not, you know, clear cut. So B2B guys started paying. But what I want to say is, as we go forward, I believe it will be B2C, or it'll be B2B2C. Let's see how that pans out.
So
I hope I've addressed that question.
yeah. So there is a good chance that even B2C will attract the investors in next few years or something.
Yes.
Okay, great.
That's the way I see it going, please. But time will tell.
Yeah, definitely. So like moving from a bit a distraction from this investment side, uh, you also mentioned about farming as a service company, service model. So what is your view, even as an investor, from investor perspective, as well as, you know, entrepreneurial perspective, of farming as a service companies who generally converts fixed cost to the variable cost, which provides agri equipments on pay-per-use basis. So what is your view on those? And if you could also speak about, you know, blockchain technologies used for agri-tech and how important they are for this sector.
So I'll talk about blockchain first, considering I don't know too much about it. The good part is we all know it's a great database technology, and a lot of things can be done, especially in warehousing, warehouse management. But I'll not go into the tech side of things. It's already in place. It's already big in banking and warehousing services. It's already in place for agriculture. There are a few startups already in this space. The other thing you spoke about was farming as a service. Farming as a service has been around since 2013, 14. And of course, there are a few very well-known companies there. You have EM3, you have Tringo, you have Gold Farm, where Mahindra invested. The key point is, I think the mistakes made by some of these farming as a service companies is that they got themselves too widely and thinly spread out. The more successful, or in fact, each of these have actually learned their lessons and have adapted very well. And for example, EM3 is focused around, that belt of Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, etc. Gold Farm is focused in another area. So farming as a service is definitely here to stay. It's going to continually improve, and I think it's all about consolidating in your specific geography first before expanding to the next. Now, in terms of data mining and the other benefits that you get from farming as a service, I believe that will be the bigger piece of the pie in the future. So farming as a service is only today, it's just going to keep improving. Yes, there is a first mover advantage, but in the long run, it's all going to be about that data that's generated during that process.
Okay, got it, got it. So I think our audience are listening to this, so definitely who are working in this area will try more efforts in this direction. Another question which I have on the supply chain side, since we have mentioned about farming as a service. Now, one of your slides also mentioned about this, that highlighted the post-harvest losses due to efficiency or inefficient supply chain. Now, what sort of opportunities are there for the startups who are working on the supply chains? And along with this, since we are talking about supply chain, I would also like to ask you that AgriTech market linkages value chain, how it operates and advantage over a traditional one. So nowadays, the improvement is AgriTech market linkage value chain. So earlier there was a traditional market linkage value chain. So how it is beneficial currently?
If I can keep that answer short, how it benefits or how AgriTech comes in and benefits any of these, whether it's market linkages or anything, is it cuts down the time. It makes decision making extremely fast and in many cases automated. I mean, I don't have to talk about the numerous things that are available like AI. And therefore, since you're able to do that fast and do numerous number of transactions, the traditional intermediary would, let us assume, take a 20% margin. Here, automated processes can work on less than a percentage margin, but just focus on the transactions. So you can just sweep the market away, to tell you the truth. What are market linkages? I'm going backwards in my answering. Is where the entire process of from sourcing inputs, meaning the fertilizer, the seed, everything is linked together right up to the point of view of the output. There are fantastic examples out there because in India we have some great companies like Waycool, Dehat, and these founders are brilliant guys. I really like these guys. There's a lot of supporting technologies for these businesses that are out there that at some point are probably going to make more money than the primary business itself. And that's where I believe this audience can really, really contribute.
Right. So, Raju, I think I'll just take a couple of questions more, and I will open the forum for audience to ask some of the question, maybe by unmuting themselves. But couple of questions from my side is that since we have talked about the supply chain and market linkage and all that, AgriTech funding by subsector, how it looks like. In terms of market linkage, farm inputs, or precision agriculture, or farming as a service. What is the investor's favorite subsector in this Indian agri-tech space?
Today, the favorite sector is the output part of market linkages. Why? Because it's the highest in terms of gross value added. The second is the input sector. Why? Because it is the second largest, but it's also supported by all the traditional fertilizer companies and seed companies. I'm just going back to the first one. Output market linkages, you can see Ninja Cart, Big Basket, they're all there. And it finally has also that last mile connectivity and last mile advantage. That is why it's the most popular. Precision agriculture is still in number 3. But I believe, see, there are two sides to agriculture. One side is production. And most of the agriculture universities all these years have just focused on teaching production. But the future is about value add, value creation, and of course, post-harvest distribution losses minimizing. So from that point of view, I see precision agriculture as having such a huge potential. It's actually unfortunate that it's only 1% that has been tapped at this point. This is going to be the big one in the long run. And the second observation in this specific area is it's going to be big MNCs who will participate if there is a very interesting company in precision agriculture.
Okay, got it. So since you have touched upon this precision agriculture, how do you see the adoption by the small and marginal farmers of this precision agriculture? Because as you mentioned, in the near future, precision agriculture could be one of the hotspot. But then, how do you see that? And how to one of the question which I get from these startups working in this area is that how to convince our Indian farmers to adopt such technology on their farms. If you could also talk about that.
So I'll just go through your questions separately. But the first point was about affordability. Is that correct?
In terms of affordability, as well as any there is a traditional way they are doing the things, right? And these are the new methods, so how to convince them even to adopt such technologies?
See, the farmers are very clever. They're more clever than all of us in this audience put together. The way they think is, they're always thinking cost benefit. And unfortunately, they're always operating in a very, very, I wouldn't use the word unfavorable, but unpredictable conditions. Because nature is something that you just can't predict. You don't know what's going to happen next. You've applied your fertilizer, and suddenly you'll be with a deluge of rain. So coming back to this, farmers are smart is the point I'm trying to make. When it comes to affordability, they would have calculated what actually works for them and what doesn't. I gave you the example of a small guy in a rural area who has gone to the city to take an odd job. Let's just assume for a minute I'm talking about a guy who's a taxi driver in a city and he goes back to his farm. You will not believe this, but they go back. They have drone service providers who do this spraying in probably 30 minutes, what took them probably a day's work. They do harvesting. EM3 is one of the guys who provides the service. So does Gold Farm. This is done in half a day, where they would spend too much of time. So these service providers have actually calculated their money making part by understanding what actually works for that little driver who's come back to his farm. And they have realized that the work done today is just a foundation for the data that's being mined today and will be available for some greater use tomorrow. So from a point of view of affordability, that's that. I also want to point out about the two companies that I mentioned earlier, TerraCroft AgriTech as well as Flybird Farm Innovations. See, what these guys have done, these technologies do exist across the globe. Take, for example, automation of irrigation. There are large and very, very fine Israeli companies who are doing a great job. Indian companies also doing a great job. But what this company specifically has done in irrigation automation is they have tailor-made the product to work on small size farms, whether it's 1 acre or 5 acres, and it's still an affordable product. And what they've done is they've built a range. So the guy who's doing irrigation from an MNC service provider may be spending, let's say, about ₹1,00,000 a month. These guys, ₹1,00,000 an acre.
Mhm.
These guys do it for ₹30,000 an acre. So it's very interesting, and that is why DST identified them early on as a great theme to invest in. Affordable, yet giving you the solution. The second thing I want to point out there is what they did was, just getting data points is one thing, and I think this was covering the second part of the question. I know some brilliant companies who are, I'm not even going to name the company, but they're doing some great work on getting the data, and it's great precision. It's fantastic. But there is a gap between getting the data and then executing on that data. Today, the farmer is so smart, he's looking at both. And he'll tell you, what's the use of getting the data and paying for it if I can't execute on it? So the key is affordability, understanding what really is the solution, and focusing on exactly what the farmer wants and actually executing right through to it. And the other part, this is not part of your question, is for an innovator to see how such an innovation can be tied up with, for example, crop insurance or sale of seed after the act is done, things like that. I hope I've
Right.
answered your question.
Yes, yes, definitely, Rajiv. I think I'll take few. There is one hand raised in the chat box. Uh, in the audience, Dashrath, could you please unmute Samadhan Nagane? I will stop questions from my side and we'll take some from the participants as well.
Yeah.
Can you please unmute him?
Yes.
Samadhan, you can go ahead with your question. And then Dr. Lohokare, if you could unmute Dashrath. Sharat Chandra Lohokare.
Hello.
Yes, Samadhan, you are
Hello.
audible.
Actually, sorry, by mistake, sorry.
Samadhan, there is a lot of your background noise. Maybe if you could put your question in the chat box, we'll take it from there then.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, please do that. Dashrath, could you please unmute Dr. Sharat Chandra?
Yes. Sharat. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Have you would you be able to do that, Dashrath? Unmute him.
Yeah, I already unmute.
Okay. Dr. Sharat Chandra. Okay, he's not Dr. Sharat Chandra, but anyways, Dr. Sharmuga Kumar, could you please go ahead with your question?
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Rajuji, thank you so much for the insight that what you're giving for us. Okay, so as you said, no, even I'm basically from background of computer science, but I'm currently working on agriculture. So we have started our startup named Modern Agriculture Technology Innovation Center with the DST funding. We got a Prayas funding of 10 lakhs. Okay, so currently I'm working on a coconut maturity identification. So what we are working on is, like, we are going to classify the coconut on the 3 stages. Okay, mature, over mature, and the premature. So on this, we are working on the technology. So what I'm seeing is, like, the moment I go to the farmer, the moment I start asking for the farmers, like, what are the problem are you facing in specifically, growing the coconut, or like, these things. So what generally farmers are telling to us, they say, like, we don't have any problem. So we, like, we have the coconut tree, it's growing. Correct. So even we started pitching them more in-depth questions, but what they are telling is, like, we are not really, ready to adopt the technology. So the moment, okay, this is the problem with what I'm facing with our Indian farmers. Okay, they are not ready to adopt the technology. I know, like, what we can do for this. Like, as we said, one is the affordability. So that is for sure. Okay, because our Indian farmers are like small scale farmers. So apart from affordability, what are things we can add for the farmers in order to make their better profit?
So do you work on green coconuts or mature coconuts?
We are going to classify the coconuts actually. So let's say a lot of people are building the drones, or like, building tree climbing robots. So the moment the robots climbs up there, like, the robot need to pick the coconut, which one to pluck it, right? So we are working on that actually. So we are going to classify the coconuts, whether it is a prematured or matured or over matured.
Sorry, sir. What is your name?
Shanmugam Kumar. Shanmugam Kumar.
Shanmugam Kumar.
Yes.
Please connect with me after we finish this conversation.
Sure.
Through SINE incubator.
Sure.
What I want to tell you is, I personally know a company where you can do a lot in the line that you are working. And when I say personally, I'm very close to them. We can get you something. Now, to answer your question about farmers not accepting or not willing to try it out, maybe the customer of the farmer will want to try it out. And that is what I'm trying to tell you. We know some factories that process nuts, so we can actually speak to them. And what you're telling is actually very important, because if a large, I'm not talking about a small plant, but if you have a large processing factory for coconuts, you're looking at, I think, purchases of about, let's say, 7 crores per month. If you have spoilage of, say, 5%, that's a significant amount. That's how much you can probably look at your revenue model in terms of how much you can bill them. So you have a very interesting idea, sir. I've not asked you how it works, what it does, etc. But it's very interesting. Please contact us.
Sure. Thank you so much.
So we'll connect Rajiv definitely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I'll unmute Sudarshan now. Sudarshan, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, hi,
Yeah.
Sudarshan.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, sir. Actually, I am an innovator who is working on cold chain solutions, and I'm planning to make it accessible to minor and small farmers. So the question which I have is, would uh, access to e-commerce and cold chain to fruits and vegetable farmers at the farm gate create an interest for them to market the produce by themselves? Wouldn't that be better for them? And if such a thing happens, how would it affect the existing supply chain startups like Ninja Cart or Grow Farms?
Sorry, can you just rephrase your question a bit so that I can be a little precise in my answer?
So again, now that there is a lot of e-commerce platforms coming up, like say GeoMart, through which farmers can directly market their produce to consumers. And again, if we make cold chain infrastructure accessible to them at the farm gate, then that would be a better option for them to create more profits, right? So if that happens, how would it affect the existing supply chain startups?
So from the cold chain suppliers that I'm aware of in India, they're already doing that. They have some very good tie-ups with leaders in the industry, where different solutions are being offered at farm gate, and then aggregation of product in some sort of a cold chain hub, and then delivery to a point. So the solutions are already in place. So that is the first part of your question. What is the second part, please?
No, the thing is, I am asking what if the farmers can actually market the produce by themselves, right? With their farmer producer organizations. So if
Yes,
such, yeah, exactly.
it's
So if
already
such a
being
thing,
done.
yeah, so if such a thing happens, how would it affect the existing supply chain startups like Ninja Cart? So what they do is actually buy the produce from the farmers and they sell it to the business. But if the farmer producer organization, they themselves start doing it with access to good infrastructure.
Frankly, I'm just going to, this is my understanding, please. I may be absolutely wrong.
Okay.
But usually, even Ninja Cart actually works with other service providers to actually do the purchasing from the farm gate to Ninja Cart. So what the FPOs are doing is, these are all different levels of intermediaries, whether it is the service provider who gives it to Ninja Cart or Ninja Cart itself, or FPOs. FPOs also are intermediaries. The only good part about the FPOs is that intermediary is constituted of the farmers itself. So I see in the long run, probably, I mean, the government is trying to actively encourage FPOs to do this, but for whatever reason, it's not happening. So maybe young entrepreneurs like yourself should actually be working. I mean, I know a lot of people who are working with FPOs. They're a great segment to work with. So yeah, that would be my small piece of advice for you.
Thank you, sir.
And if I've still not satisfied your question, please email me separately.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Sudarshan will definitely connect you with Rajiv, in case you have further questions. Okay, please do write to us. So, Dr. Lohukare, I have unmuted you. Could you please ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Very clear, sir.
Okay, thanks. So I have a couple of questions. I think I have gone through your company website and your goals of improving productivity and profitability of farmers are in line with what we are trying to do by automating entire cotton cultivation by using agriculture robo. So just wanted
Fantastic.
to check how can we collaborate to achieve same goal? Are you also supporting precision farming, or you are supporting only supply chain kind of startups? That is number one. And number two is, do you also support startups at pre-revenue stage?
Sir, I think this is more of a one-to-one conversation.
Yep.
So please contact me by email. Happy to share it through Pranita.
Okay.
But just for the benefit of the audience, yes, we do look at pre-revenue, but not really. Number two is we don't focus only on supply chain impact. We look at people who are, you just mentioned what you do in cotton. That's exactly what we look at. We look at every single vertical.
Okay.
Okay. So we are looking at each vertical separately. But right now, most of the focus is on food. And cotton is a very, very interesting I mean, if you have already let me assume that you probably have a robotic harvester or something like that.
That's correct. We are developing it, and the field trials will start maybe from within 15 days time.
That is fantastic, because
Yeah.
I have seen some, that is one of the points I wanted to make towards the end of this session is, success is all about perseverance. And I've seen this company, I'm not going to take their name here, but one of the first things I saw was a gentleman who developed a robotic harvester. And I have seen him in so many panels, biotech ignition grant, so many times. And I think after about 5 attempts, he won the BIG. And if you look at his product today, he's got a fantastic product. But of course, what I don't want to comment is he needs mentoring support of the business side of things. So if you have a good product, why not? Please. There's so much of potential. It's a great market.
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Lohokari will definitely connect you with
Yeah,
Rajiv.
sure.
Rajiv, with your permission, can I just extend this session for 10 more minutes?
Yeah, please.
Because I see a lot of raised hands and I would like to take few questions from the participant.
No problem. The other thing that we can do is if anybody is not able to complete their questions during the session, you can just ask them to contact me, please.
Sure,
and
sure.
just please, I'll confirm who you can share my email address with.
Sure, sure. I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. So we have Dr. Badalkar here in the chat box, and I'm going to unmute him. Hello, Dr. Badalkar.
Yes, very good afternoon, and thank you, sir, for an excellent session, and thank you, Pranita, for having him here. Can you hear me?
It's very, very clear. The clearest of the speakers.
Sir, I come from Department of Science and Technology of the State Government of Gujarat. There's a mission called as Biotechnology Mission, and my question is going to be slightly tilted towards the agro-biotech side. Sir, while we understand precision engineering and precision agri-tech is coming in, we also get to see a lot of vertical farming kind of things also coming up, robotics coming up. Sir, the state government developed a plant tissue culture laboratory in the interest of agrotech startups coming in. So this is a furnished and equipped laboratory. However, for past few years, we find that there are not enough takers for this. Here, there is a tissue culture laboratory furnished, equipped on subsidized basis available. Even as a reviewer in BIG, I get to see that they are more towards IoT or robotics or precision agri-tech. What future do you see for plant tissue culture and then, hardening it and then coming up with newer products?
So I've seen some tissue culture labs in Bangalore. I come from a similar background. So for me, this is a very, very interesting area. I'm actually surprised that nobody is using it. It could be, you're a reviewer in BIG. I do the same thing. So it could be please contact me is what I'm trying to tell you. So it could be just due to just a little bit of change in focus and looking at commercial focused customers. I'm not going to use you as an example. There is another example of a manufacturing facility set up by a particular state government for testing mechanisms. It's totally different industry. But what I noticed over there is the way, they're able to attract customers, but they're not able to make those customers successful. And it sounds a little vague what I'm saying, but I think you are in a great field. This is the future. Fortunately or unfortunately, the buyers of the end product would probably be MNCs or not be MNCs, but you look at banana, look at, coconut, for example, does not have any successful tissue culture so far. So there are some fantastic segments. Do you all have labs across the country or only in Gujarat?
Only in Gujarat. As a part of state government, we are constrained by the geography of Gujarat.
This is it's a fantastic thing that you have. In fact, just for the benefit of this audience, if anybody wants to reach out to you, it should be fantastic.
Yes, they can have.
Developing a tissue culture lab is really difficult.
And I will, of course, reach out to you, sir, no doubt.
Please, it'll be fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much.
Dr. Badalkar, this is a Bionest lab which you are talking about?
Yes.
Bionest supported?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Badalkar, for joining us. Yeah. Since we are also SINE is also a Bionest incubator, we are also supported with this, and we do have a tissue culture lab. But as Dr. Badalkar mentioned, of course, there are few takers at this moment from this area for this. I agree with him. I'll unmute Anirudh here. Anirudh, please go ahead with your question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, it's evening, I guess. I'm a student. I'm a student currently pursuing my master's. Currently, so I'm not being a part of this session means a lot to me. But I'm a student. I'm a learner, so I don't know much of the field. But my question is related to if I got any business ideas regarding this trend, or you can say autonomous agriculture. So what are the next steps that are that idea should follow, or apart from finding investors, what are the next steps that we can take care of? Because I have an idea of I'm currently in Germany, sir. Currently, I'm pursuing my master's in Germany with the field of industrial engineering, and I have some idea to implement within the Europe. So on the basis of autonomous agriculture, which is being trending in these days, because almost all the robots that are being produced are used for industrial purposes, but a very less amount of robots are being used in the agriculture sector. So my idea is to integrate this farming by making deals with the suppliers and acting like a bridge between the farmers and the suppliers of the autonomous equipment. So
brilliant. So I first of all, again, please connect with me. Most important is congratulations. The question is fantastic. So congratulations on the idea.
thank you, sir.
I'll give you one example. You have a lot of strawberry harvesting.
Exactly, sir. Berry
harvesters.
picking, berries picking and plucking activities and stuff going on.
Correct. So the cost of harvesting strawberry, if I'm right, is about 13 pounds per hour in the UK.
Exactly, 12 to 13 it varies. 11 to 13.
13? Yeah. So and average human being picks about, is it 9 strawberries per 30 seconds? Something like that.
It will be less. Even
So,
I can say that it will be 2. I'll say 5. You're saying 9, but yeah, I'll say 5.
9. It's 9. Source is a BBC report. Now, having said that as an example, 2 things happened in the last 4 years. One was the previous president of the USA decided to build a wall. Whether it happened or not, you all know. The other thing is the UK broke away from the EU. So what happened is in the past, a lot of people from some Eastern European countries used to go to the UK during the harvest season. And so there was labor available. And it was 13 pounds an hour. And all of a sudden, you have these barriers that came up. And they had no choice. You can't let strawberries in your farm even for an extra day. So people started paying ridiculous salaries for harvesting. And here came the opportunity. Now, strawberry harvesters have been around for a long time. Like you correctly said, they were in industrial use. All you needed to do is the previous person who asked me the question about cotton harvesting. All you needed to do is to put together a robotic arm. And then whether it is a robotic arm on a huge tractor and going in a field purpose, or a robotic arm on a small platform, which is just about 1 meter big, and going in a greenhouse was the solution. Now, these robots have they cost about 180,000 euros per robot. The point is it affordable? Will anybody in India buy it? No. I've spoken to some guys just to test this out. So your idea is very interesting. It'll have to be tailor-made to India, unfortunately. The earlier question you asked was, now that you have an idea, what do you do? Now, this is a brilliant question because I think this serves very well for the entire audience.
Yes.
So if I had an idea, the first thing I would do is put it down on paper, write my business plans, etc., etc. But take it to something called BIG, Biotech Ignition Grant. Now, the Department of Science and Technology and BIG give you a 50 lakh rupee grant if you have a successful idea with a successful proof of concept. I may not have phrased that correctly, but you can go and look it up on the website. It's brilliant. It was not there, when I started off many years ago.
Yeah,
It's
so
very, very
there were
nice.
no much of a platforms, I know.
So your first step usually is to borrow from friends and family and to set up a small concept or a product or a company, then to go to various departments, including BIG, to support your company through grants. The purpose of these grants is to bridge the gap between friends and family kind of informal funding to serious VC funding. So along the way, for different purposes, whether it's proof of concept, market development, etc., there are different type of funds and grants available. So I would do that as the second step. Third step would be to look for investors through Department of Science and Technology again. Why do I say them is they are the best seed investors because 2-3 things. A, you get to do what you want. B, you actually get to a point when you get to sustainability and to the real venture capitalists. The real venture capitalists would be stage 3 because real venture capitalists and investors are absolutely no nonsense. They believe in sustainability. They believe in sustainability. When I say that, revenue sustainability, the company standing on its own feet, negative working capital, things like that. So these are my 3 pies bit, please, for this question of yours.
So first of all, you're saying,
Rajiv, Anirudh, probably we have to cut down our discussion here, but Rajiv, if I may add something to that as well. Since this is the question which we are also got in the Q&A chat box. So Anirudh, and for other benefit of other audience, so BIG, as Rajiv mentioned, Biotechnology Ignition Grant is the very early stage biotech funding, which is coming from Department of Biotechnology, BIRAC, for establishing, proof of concept for your ideas. If you have a proof of principle, that'll be a better for, getting selected under the scheme. So you get a 50 lakh to establish your proof of concept and follow on. There are other grants from BIRAC as well, for going to market, for commercialization, scale up purposes, different leaf fund, seed fund, as Rajiv mentioned. Now this seed fund comes from DST, BIRAC, different ministries. Even METI, and they also have different programs for prototype development or your product development. It could be from the quantum of 7 lakh to 10 lakh as a prototype grant from DST under Nidhi Prayas program, or EIR. If you are a student, it is a entrepreneur in residence program where you get the fellowship to develop, to work on your concept or something. And as well as as Rajiv mentioned, there is a seed fund which is available from DST and at the same time from DBT as well. So these sort of a seed fund which are available with different incubators, all over India. Throughout India, there are different incubators who provide such seed funding, which comes from these government agencies. And, as he mentioned that it is one of the best, investment which you'll get to develop your product. So, do contact your nearest incubator. If you have any such idea, potential idea, you can also contact SINE, because SINE is one of the BIG partner for this, and you can come with your idea. We can help you, mentor you to apply for this call, as well as for other grant opportunities as well. If you have already developed your product and if you are looking for seed fund, then we also open a pan India call whenever such fund is available. You can also apply for that. I have also mentioned the few email address in the chat box. You can contact us with your ideas, and we will get back to you on this. I'm really sorry, Anirudh. We have to maybe stop here because it's already 5:15. And we have taken
just only one small question is that is this a technical technical knowledge is required for developing these ideas, because some ideas are completely out of business scope and something.
At least for such funding agencies, there has to be some sort of a technology, but because it's not, and technology has to be there which has a potential to commercialize. Okay, so it's not just the technology or the core fundamental research which you do, but some product come out of it which is commercially viable product. So it's both business and technology. So such
So
things will
because
be supported.
my idea would completely based on business, so I don't have any idea of developing a robot or something because I don't even
That's
have the
fine.
possibility to. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine, Anirudh. So what you can do
Yes,
is that you
thank you.
can write to us with your idea if you have any such idea, and
Yeah,
then
I
we
didn't
will.
receive any mail ID or something in the.
I have already put that in the chat box. It's SINE IITB. It's BD at sineiitb.org. BD stands for business development. So it's the business development team at SINE who will look at it. And validate, go through the idea, and then we call for applicants for the pitching and all, and we look at their proposal. Okay, Anirudh?
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of hand raised in the in the session of in the participants this thing, but we really have to close this session now. We have already taken a lot of time from Rajiv. uh, Rajiv, with this, before I, my vote of thanks for you, I would like to ask a last question to you. Closing remarks, and in this pandemic place, what is your suggestion for these early stage startups who want to excel in this area?
Good or bad, pandemic means you're locked in a room like this. There's no working hours. You have 24 hours to work. So I'm sure you'll come out with the best ideas. The other good part is, I believe we have learned, and jokes apart, we have learned that without long distance travel, we can actually get a lot of work done. I think previously for anything we thought that, oh, I need to fly and meet this guy or travel and meet this guy. Don't need to do that. So the pandemic is actually good for AgriTech, for tissue culture, for agri-biotech, for agriculture. It's a fantastic thing. I also know the downside. I mean, though people say that agri is the one free industry during the pandemic, it's not true. There are a lot of difficulties faced by people on the ground. But my answer is the pandemic is actually good. It has made us realize that health is more important than wealth. It has made us realize that eating healthy and good food is important. Therefore, if you can develop good food, healthy food at affordable rates through some fantastic mechanisms, I think that's what the pandemic is about.
Thank you, Rajiv, for those last remarks. I
I have
agree.
something to say before you wind up. See, for all the people who are, this is definitely not for all these eminent people listening in here, but for people who are planning to start companies, getting into agri. See, failure is the biggest lesson. I tell this to everybody. And if you cannot fail, dust your pants off, and then go out there and succeed. You have to have endurance. And if you do this, there's nothing more important than that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajiv, for this. Yeah. With this, I would like to thank you for your time taking out. Thank you so much for taking out so much time to discuss with us for this session. It was such an informative and insightful session. I see a lot of questions here. What I will request audience is that please write those questions to us, send those questions to us, and then we will, send those to Rajiv, and we'll try to get the answers for your question. If needed, we can also connect you with him for the same. And of course, I have already mentioned about the funding opportunities which are available for you guys, like entrepreneurs, researchers, faculty members, or startups who are working in this area. BIG is one such area available. Seed funds or some other programs from different ministries, I have already mentioned them. But if you would like to know more about them, please do contact us. Please do write to us. You can visit SINE website for the more information. And this particular presentation or the recording of the session will be available on the SINE official YouTube channel. So you can even visit there. You can go through that again. I have, before I close this session, I have one more announcement that under this Power Our Biotech series, we are going to conduct another session. The next session will be on 10 June. It is basically on the genomics tool for screening and diagnosis. And Professor Kiran Kondabakil, who is the one of the renowned virologist and professor at Bioscience and Bioengineering, IIT Bombay, he is going to deliver this talk. So it's going to be a very interesting talk from his side. And of course, one more speaker is the startup founder who is working on genomics from last few years, and he's working on TB genomics, as well as he is working on a genomic tool for COVID variant and tracing. So he's going to present some fantastic findings from that. So please do join us for that session as well. It will be a very interesting session. And thank you all for joining us and staying with us for such a long time. Thank you. And thanks, Rajiv.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.